I never thought I'd have a story for this sub, but after what happened at my last family reunion, I think I finally do. For context, my name is Ryan, and I'm 26. My family is complicated. I wouldn't call them outright toxic, but they have this unshakable tendency to put people into neat little boxes based on outdated ideas of success. If you're a doctor, lawyer, or businessman, you're a golden child. If you chose a different path, especially one that doesn't fit their idea of prestige, you're a joke. Guess which category they put me in? I work in digital marketing. Not the glamorous, high-end corporate kind, but the type that involves freelancing, content creation, and helping small businesses grow online. It's a job I love. I make good money, more than enough to support myself, but because it doesn't come with an impressive title or an office in some high-rise building, my family never took it seriously. I'm used to the passive-aggressive comments, the little digs, the condescending questions about whether I have a real job yet. Normally, I just let it slide. But this time, something changed. The family reunion was held at my Aunt Linda's house, a big two-story place with a backyard large enough to fit 3 generations of relatives. These gatherings happened every summer, and I had learned to manage my expectations. I enjoyed seeing my younger cousins, my grandma, and the handful of relatives who weren't insufferable. But I also knew I'd have to endure the inevitable interrogation about my life choices. Uncle Mike was the worst about it. He was my dad's older brother, a man who had built his entire identity around being the successful sibling. He ran a car dealership, though from what I'd heard through the grapevine, it wasn't doing all that well. Didn't matter. To him, success wasn't about how well you were actually doing. It was about looking the part, wearing the right suit, driving the right car, having the right title. I was sitting at one of the patio tables, chatting with my cousin Jake about a trip he had just taken to Italy, when I heard the all-too-familiar voice behind me. Well, if it isn't the family disappointment. The words hit like a slap, loud enough for everyone around to hear. Conversation slowed. A few people chuckled awkwardly, the kind of laugh people give when they don't want to be part of something but also don't want to challenge it. I forced a smile before turning around. "Good to see you too, Uncle Mike." He had his usual drink in hand, sunglasses perched on his head, the smugness practically radiating off of him. "You still doing that internet stuff?" he asked, waving his hand vaguely. "You know, my buddy's kid just got a job at a big firm. Finance. Real money. But he's making a lot more than whatever TikTok nonsense you do." I exhaled slowly, already regretting being here. "I don't do TikTok. I work in digital marketing." Right? Marketing." He turned to my dad, who was sitting nearby. "Remember when Ryan wanted to be an engineer? Man, what a downgrade, huh?" More laughter. I glanced at my mom, hoping she'd say something, but she just gave me that look, the one that meant don't make a scene. Mike grinned, clearly enjoying himself. "Hey, at least he's not in jail or homeless, right? We should be grateful for the little things." And that was when I decided I wasn't going to let this slide. Not this time. I pushed my chair back and stood up, feeling my heart pound in my chest. Slowly, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The table went quiet. "You know, Uncle Mike," I said, my voice steady but sharp. I wasn't going to say anything. But since we're talking about success, maybe it's time the whole family knew a little secret. Mike's smirk faltered. I tapped the screen. The silence stretched across the patio. Conversations had died, and I could feel the weight of every gaze shifting toward me. My uncle's smirk wavered, but he recovered quickly, letting out a short, dismissive laugh. "Oh, come on, Ryan," he scoffed. "What? You gonna Google something to prove me wrong? Maybe show us some made-up numbers from whatever website you run." I ignored him and held up my phone, the screen glowing in the evening light. My hands were steady now. I wasn't backing down. "You like talking about success, right?" I said, my voice even. "You like comparing careers? Fine. Let's compare." I turned the screen toward him. It was a screenshot. My most recent invoice from a client, one of the biggest contracts I'd ever landed. The total amount? $22,500. A murmur rippled through the family. Someone let out a low whistle. My younger cousin, Jake, leaned forward, eyes wide. "No way. That's legit." I nodded. 1 month. From one client. For the first time in my life, I saw something unfamiliar flicker across Uncle Mike's face, uncertainty. He scoffed, but it didn't have the same bite as before. "Well, sure, but that's just one big payout. No way that's consistent. It's not like you have a stable job or benefits or..." I swiped again, pulling up my earnings tracker for the year. I tilted the phone so he could see. $190,000. More whispers. More eyes widening. Holy, Jake started, but my aunt shot him a look before he could finish. Uncle Mike swallowed, his expression shifting, but he wasn't ready to give up yet. That doesn't mean I cut him off. Now, let's talk about your dealership. His face paled. I glanced down at my phone again, scrolling to something else. See, I wasn't going to bring this up, because unlike you, I don't think someone's entire worth is based on their job. But since you clearly do, let's go over a few things. I tapped the screen, and this time, I wasn't showing an invoice. I was showing a news article. And right there, in bold letters, was the headline, "Local car dealership under investigation for fraudulent loan practices." The silence that followed was absolute. The color drained from Uncle Mike's face. His mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. The entire patio was silent, every pair of eyes locked onto the headline glowing from my phone screen. Aunt Linda was the first to break the silence. What is that? I turned the phone so she and everyone else could see it clearly. It's an article from 2 weeks ago. Talks about a certain car dealership that's been under investigation for shady financing practices. Falsifying loan applications, inflating interest rates without customer consent, repossessing cars over clerical errors that weren't actually errors. I looked up, locking eyes with Uncle Mike. Sound familiar? His face was now a shade of red I'd never seen before. That's just rumors, he snapped, though his voice lacked its usual bravado. Some foolish customers didn't read their contracts, and now they want to blame the business. The media will print anything these days. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? I swiped again and pulled up another screenshot, this time from the Better Business Bureau. A full page of formal complaints against his dealership, each one detailing nearly the exact same fraudulent tactics mentioned in the article. I read one out loud. I was told my loan was approved at 4.2%, only to find out later they had signed me at 9.7% without my knowledge. When I confronted them, they threatened to repossess my car unless I paid cash up front. I glanced at him. Classy business move, Uncle Mike. Someone sucked in a breath. My dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Mike let out a forced laugh, but it sounded strangled. This is ridiculous. You can't believe everything you read online. Sure, I said, nodding. Except for the part where the state attorney general is now involved. I swiped one last time and pulled up a legal document, a public filing from the attorney general's office, confirming an active investigation into fraudulent lending practices at his dealership. Uncle Mike froze. My stomach was a knot of adrenaline, but I kept my voice calm. So tell me again, Uncle Mike. Who's the family disappointment here? The murmurs turned into full-blown whispers. My Aunt Linda looked mortified. My mom had her hand over her mouth. Even my dad, who had never once stood up for me in these family gatherings, was looking at his brother like he'd just seen him for the first time. Uncle Mike clenched his jaw, his fists tightening at his sides. You don't know what you're talking about, he muttered, but the fight in his voice was gone. I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe the entire family just found out that the guy who's been lecturing me about real jobs is facing potential fraud charges. Silence. Then my cousin Jake, bless him, let out a low whistle. Damn, Ryan. You really did your homework. I pocketed my phone and gave Uncle Mike one last look. Yeah, turns out, researching things is part of my internet job. And with that, I turned and walked back inside. I didn't need to hear what happened next. The damage was done. I didn't stick around after that. The moment I stepped inside the house, I grabbed my keys and walked straight out the front door. I wasn't in the mood for more fake laughter, awkward glances, or hushed conversations about what had just happened. I had said what I needed to say. Let them deal with it. As I drove away, I could still feel the tension in my chest. Years of biting my tongue, enduring the backhanded comments, letting them make me feel like I wasn't enough. It had all built up to that moment. And for once, I didn't regret standing up for myself. Still, I wasn't expecting what happened next. A week later, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Uncle Mike. I let it ring. A minute later, another call. Then a third. Then a text. Ryan, we need to talk. Call me back. It's important. I ignored it. Whatever mess he had found himself in, it wasn't my problem. Then another text came through. Please. That made me pause. Mike was a lot of things, arrogant, condescending, full of himself, but he wasn't the type to say please. Curious, I answered his next call. Ryan. He started immediately, his voice low, almost urgent. Listen, Kid, I know things got heated at the reunion, but I need to talk to you about something serious. I didn't say anything, just waited. He cleared his throat. I might be in a little bit of a financial bind. I almost laughed. A bind? He exhaled sharply, like he was trying to keep himself from losing his temper. Yeah, a bind. Look, you obviously keep track of things online. You know about the investigation. It's complicated. The legal fees alone are ruining me, and the bad press has scared off a lot of customers. If I don't come up with some serious cash soon, I could lose everything. I leaned back in my chair. And what does this have to do with me? There was a long pause. Then, with what sounded like actual reluctance, he said, I need a loan. I blinked. A loan? Just something to hold me over, he rushed on. I know you're doing well for yourself. You proved that at the reunion. You've got the money, Ryan. I just need a little help to get through this rough patch. I let his words hang in the air for a moment, pretending to consider them. Then I said, You mean you need help from the family disappointment? Silence. I could hear him breathing on the other end. He knew exactly what I was doing. Ryan, he said finally, his voice tight. I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't serious. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered every insult. Every time he mocked my career. Every time he made me feel like I was lesser because I didn't fit into his narrow idea of success. I took a slow breath. And then I made my decision. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling for a moment while I let the silence stretch. I wanted him to sit in it, to really feel it, to understand what it was like to be on the other end of his treatment, what it was like to be the one asking for something and not knowing if he'd get it. Then, finally, I exhaled. You know, Mike, it's funny. For years, I've listened to you run your mouth about me, about my job, about how I'm supposedly some kind of failure. I chuckled, shaking my head. And now here we are. The successful businessman is calling the disappointment because he needs money. His voice hardened instantly. I wouldn't have to call you if things weren't so complicated, Ryan. You think I planned for this? No, I said. But I did. That shut him up. I continued, my voice calm, measured. See, while you were busy playing the big shot at family gatherings, laughing at my so-called internet job, I was actually planning for my future. I built something sustainable. I saved money. I invested. I didn't blow it all on fancy cars and golf trips. His breath hitched slightly, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. You have no idea what it takes to run a business, he snapped. Maybe not a car dealership under investigation for fraud. I shot back. He growled, and I could practically hear him grinding his teeth on the other end. Ryan, listen to me, he said, forcing his voice to sound controlled. I get it, okay? You had your little mic drop moment at the reunion. You made your point. But this isn't just about me. I've got a family to take care of. If I go under, a lot of people suffer. I scoffed. Now you care about people suffering? He ignored that. I'm asking for a loan, not a handout. I'll pay you back. With interest. We can even put it in writing if that makes you feel better. I let out a long sigh. And how exactly do you plan to pay me back, Mike? If your business is hemorrhaging money, if you're barely staying afloat, if you're already drowning in legal fees, where's my money supposed to come from? He hesitated. Things will turn around. I laughed, shaking my head. Yeah? You really think people are going to forget about all this? That customers will just magically trust you again? I have connections, Ryan, he snapped. I know people. Once this blows over, I'll be fine. Then ask those people for money, I said simply. Silence. And then, for the first time, I heard it. The sheer desperation in his breathing. He wasn't just uncomfortable anymore. He was panicking. Ryan, I can't ask them, he admitted, his voice low. They're already pulling away. Investors are backing out. My own business partner is talking about jumping ship. I don't have a lot of options left. I sat there, absorbing that. The invincible Uncle Mike, the self-proclaimed business genius, the same man who had spent years looking down on me, was now at his breaking point. He wasn't just struggling, he was sinking, and no one wanted to throw him a life raft. No one except me, if I wanted to. And that was the real kicker. Because the old me, the one who used to sit there and take his insults, that version of me might have felt bad, might have wanted to be the bigger person, might have thought, if I help him now, maybe he'll finally respect me. But I wasn't that person anymore. I exhaled slowly. I'm going to tell you something, Mike. And I want you to listen carefully. He didn't respond. I continued. For my entire life, you've treated me like I was beneath you. Every family gathering, Every conversation, every time you opened your mouth, it was always the same. When are you going to get a real job, Ryan? When are you going to stop wasting your time? When are you going to grow up? His breathing was heavier now, but he stayed silent. I kept going, and I took it, for years, because I thought maybe, one day, you'd actually see me for who I am. That maybe, if I proved myself, you'd finally stop looking down on me. I let out a dry chuckle. And you know what? I did prove myself. I'm making more money than you ever did. I built something real. And now, the guy who mocked me for not having a real job is begging me for money. That one hit hard. I felt it through the phone. So tell me, Mike, I said, why would I help you now? His composure cracked. Because I'm your family. Ryan, he exploded. That's why? Because family doesn't turn their backs on each other. I let that hang in the air for a second before responding, my voice ice cold. Funny, you didn't seem to care about that when you were calling me the family disappointment. Silence. And then, I heard it. The shift. The moment his desperation turned into rage. Oh, I see how it is, he sneered. You're still some insecure little punk, aren't you? You think just because you got lucky with some internet money, you're better than me? I smirked. I don't think it, Mike. I know it. He lost it. You ungrateful little brat, he spat. I've been in business longer than you've been alive. You think your little online gig makes you smarter than me? You think it makes you successful? You're still just some nobody with a laptop, sitting in his apartment, pretending he's a big deal. Meanwhile, I built a real business. I had employees. I had assets. I had a business, I interrupted. Had. Past tense. The silence that followed was deafening. He was fuming, but I wasn't done yet. You want to talk about success, Mike? Let's talk about it. Because real success isn't just about money. It's about respect. It's about trust. And right now, you have neither. Your customers don't trust you. Your business partners don't trust you. Your own family doesn't trust you. And that's not because of me. That's because of you. He had nothing. No comeback. No defense. Just heavy, angry breathing. I let out a slow breath. You burned every bridge, Mike. You ran your mouth for years, and now, when you finally need help, there's no one left. And then, for the final blow, welcome to being the family disappointment. I hung up, and for the first time in years, I felt free. It's been a few months since that phone call, and honestly, I haven't heard much from Uncle Mike since. Word spread fast through the family that I refused to help him, and, predictably, there was some backlash. My mom called me a few days after it happened, saying I should have been the bigger person. My aunt tried to guilt-trip me with the whole "buddy's family" speech. A few cousins texted me, basically fishing for gossip. But here's the thing, I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. Mike wasn't some innocent guy who hit a rough patch. He was a grown man who spent his entire life belittling others while pretending he was untouchable. And when the walls finally closed in on him, he had the audacity to expect me, the person he looked down on the most, to save him. From what I've heard, things haven't improved for him. His business officially shut down, and the investigation against him is still ongoing. Last I checked, he had to sell his fancy car and downgrade his house. I don't know where he's getting the money to keep himself afloat, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's burning through whatever savings he has left. As for me, I'm doing great. Better than ever, actually. That whole situation made me realize just how far I've come. I spent so many years letting his words get to me, feeling like I had something to prove. But I don't anymore. I know my worth. I know what I've built. And I know that cutting off toxic family members, no matter how much society tells you to stick by them, is sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should have just given him the money, let bygones be bygones, and played the role of the bigger person. What do you think? Was I too harsh, or did Uncle Mike get exactly what he deserved?